doesn't. Okay.
Sorry, say again, Anke.
No, okay. I was saying, if people are late, is that going to disrupt the flow or anything? Or
To be honest, Anke, we can't, in half an hour, we can't really sort of worry about that.
Okay, all right, that's fine. If you're not worried, I'm not worried.
No,
absolutely fine. No. Okay, that's cool.
People get the recording. If they've registered for the session, people get the recording afterwards anyway.
Okay, that's cool. Right.
So this is Anke Jacobs, who works for Birmingham Adult Education Service, and she's going to be talking about using digital skills to teach ESOL, and especially the grammar part of ESOL.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Yes, so yes, I am Anke, as Nika said, and I work for Birmingham Adult Education Service. I'm an ESOL tutor, and I teach ESOL at Entry 3 and Level 1. So this session, I would like to promote online learning for ESOL students per se, but also introduce a free quality website, which I really like to use, with readily available interactive exercises, fact sheets, and other resources, which are really, really useful for the learners for the acquisition of grammar skills. I would also like to weigh up the pros and cons of online learning, because as with everything, you know, things always have advantages and disadvantages. So it's always worth it looking both sides of the story, so to say. And then I would like to invite you to ask questions, and hopefully I'll be able to answer them. So why should we incorporate online learning into our ESOL lessons? Well, the government published the National Standards for Essential Digital Skills way back in April 2019. And in these standards, it lists not only what people should be able to do, but also that they are legally entitled to digital skills lessons. And if they have no skills whatsoever or very low skills, this is in fact free. And I don't think enough of us actually know about this. So this is really to encourage that nobody gets left behind, which is why I feel so passionate about promoting digital skills for ESOL learners. Using these interactive resources is really good because it's quite flexible. So that means it's conducive to differentiated and autonomous learning, because people can work at their own pace. They can choose however many exercises they want to do, or move on to something else. And once they become more confident using one website, once they've learned how to navigate that, then they will be more confident to try other things online. If anybody needs to look at this document, the link is actually here on my slide. So the site I would like to introduce is called perfectenglishgrammar.com. It offers free quality English materials, including a free grammar level quiz. And there are grammar exercises, explanations, fact sheets, everything's available both online and as a PDF. So this website is useful even for people who don't have devices in their classrooms and they just want to print out the exercises as PDFs. That is also possible. The topics, basically the site covers all the different topics that we want to teach the learners: verb tenses, modals and phrasal verbs, conditionals, passive, etc., etc. There are also complete leveled grammar courses available. So if I just click on my link here, I've also got a link on here for the adult ESOL core curriculum, which obviously shows what the ESOL learners should be learning at all the different levels. So if anybody needs more details on that. And of course, this site supports the adult ESOL core curriculum. So here we are on the home page of the Perfect English Grammar site. So if we know what we're looking for, we can just type it into the search bar. And again, the digital skill here is to navigate the site, but also using the keyboard and practicing typing, which a lot of the learners still don't really know and are not very familiar with. So especially if they use their phones, they probably just use a keyboard on their screen. So if you've got any laptops or computer PCs in your classroom, so the learners, you know, can use a keyboard as well and acquire those skills. Let's just look at an example. As I said, there are all these different grammar topics that we can look at. And there are also level courses. So even from level A1 onwards, you can use this website. Yeah, even beginners, ESOL beginners can use it. And it goes all the way up here, and you can just have a look through what there is. So let's look at an example. Let's see conditionals. Firstly, it takes you to a basic page where it shows you an infographic, which I really, really like. You can download it, and I've actually printed it for the learner so they can put it into their own folder. So they have it there to refresh their memories. Everything is summarized, the 4 conditionals, along with examples, how you make them, the construction of them. And I've also printed those out and put them on the wall as posters. If they need more information about this, they can obviously click here for all the 4 different conditionals that are individual pages where the learner can find out facts and more details than the infographic offers. And then let's look at the exercises. Once they found out how to make the conditional, you choose an exercise, say, make the second conditional, and here it comes, lots of activities. Now, I said it's flexible in that not everybody might need to do all 21 examples, but some learners might need this for confidence building. So if anybody can do it after the first 10 and they say, yeah, I can do that, they can move on to something else, no problem. So typing skills. If I were you, I would get a new job. Oh, let's just do this. I've mistyped it. I'm going to check, and it says, yeah, correct, tick. But here it says, So I'm wondering what is wrong with this. Now, I know it is a spelling error, but if I go to show, it shows me what the right answer would have been. And by the way, it does actually accept the contraction as well as the full word. Yeah, if you wrote, I would get, hopefully it will accept it as well. So really, it teaches the learners the grammar, the spelling, all sorts of different things. Let me go back to my PowerPoint. Well, sorry. No, wrong page. No, now I'm completely gone. Sorry about that. Here we go. Am I back to my PowerPoint? Am I sharing it?
You are.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry about that. Okay, pros and cons of learning grammar online. The pros are obviously it relates to the adult ESOL core curriculum. And once again, I've put the link on there for the core curriculum. Indirectly, it addresses all 4 skills, speaking and listening, reading and writing, also vocabulary and spelling. So all this will be practiced. Promotes autonomous learning, so the learners gradually, the more confident they get, the more they will be able to choose their own activities and decide when they've learned enough and want to move on to something else, which obviously is differentiated learning. The correction is immediate, as you've seen. It consolidates the rules and concepts of the grammar that they've learned. They will obviously gain more confidence. It also frees up the teacher to support one-to-one. If everybody's engaged on a digital device and everybody's doing activities, I can go around and monitor and help people individually, which is useful as well. And of course, as I said, it supports the acquisition of essential digital skills because they have to do all these things online. Finally, it also saves on paper and ink, so we don't have to print out any worksheets. But if that is necessary, I know that not everybody has devices available in the classroom. It is also possible for just the grammar learning aspect. Worksheets can be printed out. The cons, yes, it might prevent or limit peer interaction, which obviously is important, especially speaking and listening, but I'm not advocating this for a full session. I'm not saying people should do this for an hour or two. They can then still practice what they've learned with more creative activities, you know, free speaking activities or free writing. It is just the consolidation of the concept, and then you teach everything else as you would normally, and then you would encourage people as well. Having said that, I have used this for people to work collaboratively. When we taught on Zoom last year, I got people to share a screen, and several would work together to find the answer, and one person would type and share. So it can be used collaboratively as well. It is a little bit tricky for the teacher to monitor everyone, because if everybody does something different, you can't sort of give whole class feedback. That is the tricky bit. Yeah. Sometimes the learners want to be taught as a whole class, just because they like to hear what they like to hear the teacher's explanation. And that is especially true because they don't learn the reason for their mistakes. It says right or wrong, but it doesn't actually say, well, why is that the case? Why have I got it wrong? And that's where they need the teacher. So that can be a little bit tricky. And sometimes when you give the learners a choice, they say, no, you tell all of us. We all want to do it together, which sometimes there's a place for it, and other times they should learn independently. So it's really up to each teacher to manage that. It can be repetitive and uninspiring for some people. People who learn in different ways or who learn more creatively might find it a bit boring. And it's also kind of a means to an end. Like I said earlier, you have to obviously, once they've learned the concept, you have to find other ways of getting the learners to practice what they've learned. So that is all from me. My questions are, which other pros and cons can you think of? And which websites do you use and recommend? Do you have any other sites that work in a similar way, or any other useful sites to share that we can use in the lessons, even when we're teaching face-to-face? And that's it from me. Thank you.
So please feel free to unmute your microphones to ask questions. And to talk about other pros and cons, like Anka said. I mean, I've put one in the chat pane, Anka, which is, it can be reassuring for slower learners to make mistakes in private without the rest of the class seeing their mistakes.
Yeah, absolutely.
With children? Yeah, school, childcare? Can I ask a question, please?
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay, so hi Anka. With me, I do use the ones that Anka's talked about, and I use the Grammar Live worksheets and a lot of it. And what I find with our scheme of work is it's very electronically based. So, you know, a lot of it is all digital links and everything. But what I found with my learners in December, especially coming up to exam, they preferred paper-based resources, which they can then refer back to. So, for example, one of the grammar points that they were struggling with, I thought, okay, I'll do a Kahoot quiz on it. But then they wanted to print it out. So it's always because they said, like, you know, with the Kahoot quiz and all these, and this we do it, and then we forget about it. Whereas if we have something paper-based, we can refer back to it. So that's one of the down points. I think I love it. I use a lot of these interactive resources, especially for homework. It's brilliant because then you don't have to mark it. It marks itself. But it's just that one down point where I feel that sometimes you need something paper-based to refer back to.
I agree to an extent, but I think we should also try and wean them off it a little bit and use a mixture of both. I mean, for a start, it's a good idea to print out the infographic. Yeah, that is something they can have on paper in their folder to refer back to. But how often do you get a printout and actually take it home and never, ever look at it again? They always say, yeah, can we have it? Can we have it? But from my own experience, I don't know whether people will go back to it. I don't, quite frankly. You know, if I attend a training meeting, I don't very often look at the paper again.
I agree. I do agree with that. But, you know, like, you know, say in my class, I had like 11 in my writing class. And even if there's 3 or 4 of them who would, and even if it means for the 3 or 4 of them who actually want it there as a source of reference, because what I was tackling then was major misconceptions that they were having, and the things that they were struggling. For example, we had this the relationship between indefinite articles and countable nouns, which they will make it again and again. And then when I did the paper, they got it is there for them. And it's just like you say, most of them don't. But even if one or two do, you think, oh yeah, your job well done.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I get what you're saying. You'll always find that, and it's a good point. So you weigh it up as a teacher, whether you need to do it on paper or whether just online is enough. And once you've established what the specific difficulty is, just give them something about that specific thing on paper. Yeah, good point.
Sophie's got a question, Anka.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say how well this particular idea fits in with some of my thoughts whilst going through those online training modules, because I think I started to think about the problems I'd had last term, where I would sort of make a reference towards a website. And I think after the online module training was the thought of, oh yes, of course, we should try these things in class and then perhaps evaluate them together. I like the idea of students working together, discussing the online exercises or working independently, some sort of reflection that comes out of it. And then trying, because we've tried it in class, I wonder if they would feel more confident looking at it after class. So the reason why I'm mentioning this is because of WordWall and Quizlet. You can actually see who has been and tried it after the class. And actually, it tended to be, with the last class that I had, the most digitally confident students who would go and repeat it. Whereas the ones who were less confident were less likely to do it after class. And of course, those were often the ones who also needed to repeat it. So I think it's very interesting that you're doing this presentation today and suggesting a website that I think I'm going to try on my next course.
Absolutely, go for it. The beauty of this one is as well that it is perfectly legitimate and it's 100% correct. How often, because anybody can issue stuff or anybody can publish things online, sometimes you come across something that looks quite good, but then you find it's got factual or grammatical errors and you think, oh, I wish I hadn't given them that. You don't have to vet this. It's good, it's correct, and you can use it straight off, unlike a lot of other materials that I've found and discarded over the years because I thought, no, that isn't. So yeah, go for it.
Yeah, and I suppose you can come back in, can't you, and say, did you try it? Who tried it? Or get them to make a comment about it. Did you try it? Did you have any problems? Can you make a note of the problems and bring those into the class? So yeah, sorry.
Yeah, absolutely. That would be part of the evaluation thing, wouldn't it? In Unit 1, when you learn about devices, etc., there is a bit on evaluation. So if they can evaluate what they like, what they don't like, what their problems are, why they like it, etc., etc.
So Matthew's got a question, Anka.
Yeah, hi. Yeah, thanks for that, Anka. I'm really enjoying this as well. I'm getting quite excited. I'm quite excited, but it's when to use it best. I mean, for me, and I think a lot of teachers here. I mean, I'm a maths and English coordinator, but I came here for English really. But ESOL obviously is transferable to ESOL. But I think starters are a brilliant place to have it, like a lesson starter, rather than just formative or summative assessment. And I just get the feeling that everyone's so bothered with proving what people learn through formative and summative assessment. The informal learning, where this stuff can really be used properly, is in a lesson starter. So what you've done is great for a formative, but I think even dumbing it down for a lot of learners as a 10 or 15 minute starter activity would be a brilliant way of dissecting it almost.
Yeah, sure. I mean, you can manage it however you like and use it to your advantage and to the learner's advantage. So yeah,
I do agree with what Matthew said in the chat pane, Anka, that sometimes it seems like people have to do everything online or everything offline, and that's rubbish, isn't it? I mean,
Absolutely.
mixing
Yeah.
up is,
Yeah, I know. And I have commented that I agree with you. So yes.
Thank you. Cheers,
Yeah, why not just incorporate it, agree.
CM had her hand raised as well. Do you want to unmute yourself, CM? I don't know what your proper name is.
Sorry, my name is Cheryl.
Okay.
Yes, it was just a comment, I think, a few moments ago about paper copies. I think for me, what I try to do is I do try to encourage students to use the digital technology to work in pairs or in small groups until they're very comfortable with using whichever tool it is. And then I ask them to do a similar activity at home to see how they get along with that. But also in terms of paper copies, some of the tools do have, you do have the ability to print out the quiz. So for example, if you're using Microsoft Forms or Google Forms, I sometimes have maybe a couple of copies, hard copies, which I keep. I don't necessarily give it to them right at the beginning, but if I feel that maybe there's some students who could benefit from a paper copy, then I would give it to them maybe afterwards. But I think it's a good thing to encourage them to work online and to explore digital skills online. But then as a backup, I would either share the link with them, which has the full transcript of the form that we did in class, or send them a link, or actually have maybe a couple of hard copies for those who really, really want one.
Yes, that's a really good way of doing it, and I agree with that. And I've done that myself. Actually, I don't routinely print everything on paper, but in the lesson, I ask them, would you like this on paper, or are you good? And most of them say, no, we're fine. We're doing it electronically. So I only print out as many as I actually need for those people who want it. Or better still, our learners all have an allowance of photocopying. So if you put the ball back in their court and say, sure, if you want it, go print it, but it comes out of their allowance. And Absolutely. They might think twice about copying it if they Absolutely. Have to pay for it.
Absolutely. That was another point I was going to make as well, because all my students do. And trying to encourage them to print out by themselves also allows them to use the photocopier to learn how to use it, which a lot of them don't know actually really at the start of the course. So thank you.
Absolutely. Yes. It took a while for them all to be able to use their password, use the photocopier, send the printer. These were all skills I had to teach them at the beginning of the year. And now, of course, they can do it. But yeah, it's all part and parcel of it. So any more questions?
Are all your students equipped with devices to do some of this online stuff from home?
Not all of them are equipped from home. In class, we're very, very lucky at the center where we are. I have devices available for any of the 2 rooms that I'm in. We either have the laptops that we can just pick up, or we are in the computer suite where they have PCs. So in the lesson, it is not a problem. Not everybody has a computer at home, but I encourage them to book a computer outside lesson. I say to them, just come early or leave or stay after the lesson and use some of the devices we have here on site. And some of them have done that. If they can't do it at home, they can still use the center to learn there and use those devices. And I know that there is a problem in some of the centers that there aren't enough devices, or that the broadband isn't working very well and it's intermittent or whatever. But those are technical problems that we can't really do much about, other than, pass information on to the appropriate department so they can maybe fix it. But
I used to encourage my students to go to the local library to use a computer, but the trouble is so many people are using them now that they only get a sort of a rationed amount of time.
Yeah, and I don't know if all libraries are open at the moment because of COVID, but I know our centers are open again, and I know that certainly at Selly Oak, it's able, learners are able to book a device and learn there. But yeah, libraries, I know.
Yeah.
They've got lots. Yeah, sorry.
Sorry, well, it's just that Sophie's put another question in the chat pane.
Oh, sorry, Sophie. How
I just wanted to go back to Cheryl actually and just say, is there a way then of transferring something that's on a site onto a Google form?
I would say no, but why would you have to?
Yeah.
Go on, Cheryl.
Yeah, yes, I would agree as well. I don't know of a way of transferring from a site to that, but sometimes what I would do just to consolidate what we've done. So for example, if we've gone on a site and done an activity on a site, then I would, as a review for the next session, I would maybe choose 5-7 questions, which I will put on a Google form or a Mac form. That can give them immediate feedback as well, just as a review, and that can be printed. But yes, no, there is no way to move from an online site to that. Yeah.
Sorry, I suddenly thought, oh my God.
No, that would have been
that's
absolutely fantastic. I know.
It's a really good idea, though. I agree with you, Cheryl. I do that as well. They do the practice on the website, but for me to check their learning, I put some examples about a selection of grammar points or whatever into a Google form, and then of course I can check whether they got it or not. So yes, you can use it in conjunction with, but not as not sort of at the same time with Google Forms. But maybe, I mean, if we if I make any Google Forms to check on, oh no, you teach a different level. I was going to say within the organization, we should really share resources. So if I make any Google Forms that check a grammar concept, I should really share them with everybody if I think people are interested. But there you go. Any more? It's gone very quiet. Any more questions?
So on that website, Anka, are you able to, is there any way of monitoring student progress? Because there are some sites where you can, it's usually a paid for account actually, rather than the free one, where you can actually monitor how the students are getting on.
Probably not, and if so, then I haven't discovered it yet. I don't think so. I don't think you can use it as an assessment tool. You can use it for practice, but if you want to do your formative assessment, you have to think of other ways of doing this, I think. If anybody,
Cheryl's got her hand raised, so maybe she knows.
Maybe she knows. Go on, Cheryl.
No, actually, I do have, there is another grammar site. I don't know how useful it would be to you, called Tense Buster.
Oh, please share.
Amelia, yes, I can definitely do that, which does give you, if they do create an account, if each student creates an account, then they're able to track the lessons that they've gone through or the activities they've done, and it gives them, and you can see a progress basically of what they've done. So TenseBuster definitely does that. So
can you put the link in the chat?
Yeah, definitely. You can give me whilst you're talking. I'll fish it out.
Great,
and
yeah. Okay. Is it Grammarly? Oh.
No, it looks like it's tbclarityenglish.com. Is that right, Cheryl?
There are various ones, aren't there?
Yes, exactly. It is. Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. My colleague sent me a link, which I'm just going to find now, because there are various aspects to that Clarity English. So I'll find the correct one and hopefully send it as quickly as I can.
Yeah.
Okay.
That sounds really interesting.
I think I've got it actually. Let me see. I think that's it. Does that look right, Cheryl?
Well, I'll have a look anyway.
Yeah.
I shall copy and paste anything that people have put into the chat and have a look for it. So yeah, but I mean, a couple of more notes before we go. Number one, I think this is not just useful for ESOL, but to be honest, for anybody, because there was a time when it wasn't fashionable to learn grammar at all. this helps even people, you know, for whom English is a first language, you know, because there wasn't much grammar teaching over, I don't know, at some point.
Yeah.
Even my own children are in their mid-20s and they don't know much about grammar.
Yeah.
Secondly, oh goodness, now I've forgotten. Sorry, I was going to say one other thing and I forgot what it was. Yeah, never mind.
Actually, well, I wouldn't mind sticking in one other thing.
Go on.
If people have got other websites that they can share, can they go on the community of practice and share them there? So I'll just give you the link to the community of practice. Because the idea with these sessions is that they're really just to spark a debate that can carry on the community of practice when we finished our half hour, which we basically have done now.
Yeah.
So I'll just put it in.
I've just done it, Nick.
She's already done it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So hopefully we'll be able to continue the discussion on the community of practice, but I'm going to stop the recording now.